Now, it's harder and harder to lecture China on free speech when many people on the left, as I've said before, including our big tech giants, by the way, are trying to shut down free speech right here. And not just here, of course. I mean, Angelos Frangopoulos, he used to run this Sky News, great bloke, and is now running a new TV news outlet in Britain called GB News. It's about to be starring former BBC presenter Andrew Neil, who's a very impressive man, slightly right of centre, but basically a straight shooter. You haven't got your facts, he'll take you down, whichever side of politics you're on. But there is already a campaign on social media to do to it what left-wing social groups tried to do to us here at Sky last year, which is frighten advertisers into pulling their ads. And the aim is killing this GB News. The critics say that it's going to be right-wing, and of course people cannot be allowed to decide for themselves what to watch. You can't be allowed to decide for yourself to watch this show with your hard-earned cash. Joining me is the sharpest political analyst in Britain, right up there with Andrew Neil, Brendan O'Neill, editor of the online magazine Spiked. Brendan, thank you so much for your time. Your reaction to this?
It's pretty shocking. You know, this is a group called Stop Funding Hate, and this group goes around trying to discourage advertisers from placing adverts in publications that it disapproves of. And, you know, normally that would be a tabloid newspaper. You know, these woke lefty censors tend to hate tabloid newspapers, or they might go after certain magazines. But now they're going after a broadcast news channel that hasn't even been launched. GB News promises to offer a sane alternative to the kind of woke mainstream media we have in the UK, and Stop Funding Hate is going after it and trying to pull the plug even before it's launched. It really demonstrates how bigoted these woke left-wing censors can be, because people often misunderstand the word bigot. The dictionary definition of the word bigot is someone who is intolerant of anyone else who holds a different religious, moral, or political point of view. These censors are bigoted because they want to shut down anything that runs counter to their own worldview.
But the interesting thing, one of the interesting things for me in this, Brendan, is that here's this new TV thing, Angelos Frangopoulos, hiring Andrew Neil. Meanwhile, you've got Rupert Murdoch's News Limited, my employer, launching a TV operation in the same conservative space called News UK TV. That's coming too. Makes me wonder, I mean, you've got conservative newspapers over there. Why has Britain not had a conservative TV station already? And this in a country that's elected Margaret Thatcher and Boris Johnson.
That's a really good question. And I think that's a question a lot of people are asking themselves. And that's probably why there will be a really welcome space for GB News. You know, it does promise to give us something different. But the broadcast news media over here is, I'm afraid, getting worse and worse every single day. It was really brought to the surface, I think, by Brexit, because Brexit really showed us what the real divides in the UK are. And so much of the broadcast media, especially the BBC, of course, which became the Brexit bashing corporation for 4 years, but also other broadcast news media too, they really showed their true colours. They fear-mongered about Brexit, they opposed Brexit, they demonised it, they demonised the people who voted for it. So that was the crux moment when people asked themselves that question you've just asked me. How come we have a media that is so at odds with the majority of public opinion and so at odds with many, many ordinary people? And GB News self-consciously wants to address that imbalance, and I think it's going to do a fairly good job.
Well, it's weird, isn't it? Because you have got papers left and right in Britain, like you've got the Times and you've got the Daily Mail, you've got the Sun and all that, which is interesting. You don't have that same thing in TV. Brendan, the fuss about Captain Tom Moore, he is the veteran who was knighted after doing laps of his backyard during the virus crisis to raise $50 million for health services, and good on him. He died last week, and now we see an incredible brawl breaking out. Presenter Beverley Turner has been pack-attacked by Twitter and Piers Morgan. I don't know if you can divide them normally, for saying that she would not join a national clap for Moore, which would mean stand outside a door and clap him. You used to have clap the NHS days as well, people standing at the same time outside their door or on their balcony, clap, clap, clap. Now, her reasons have changed, but now she says she just didn't want to be told what to do. May I ask, in this national clap along for this gallant ex-soldier, did you clap?
I didn't clap, and I for the same reason. I mean, I have huge amount of respect for Captain Tom Moore. I think he really kept this nation going, actually, in 2020 during the COVID crisis with his various charity efforts. He was a very stirring, very inspiring figure. But I didn't clap because I don't like being told what to do either. And last year, during the first lockdown, we were all expected to clap for the NHS every Thursday night. If you didn't, you were often frowned upon by your neighbours. It did become this kind of, in 1984, they had the 2 minutes hate. This became a kind of 2 minutes love. You had to do it. You had to demonstrate that you were a good citizen. And when something becomes coercive, when something becomes something you feel you have to do under pressure, then it loses its spark, it loses its dynamic, and it no longer becomes a meaningful expression of national solidarity. So I turned against the clap for the NHS quite early on, and that's the same reason I didn't clap for Captain Tom Moore. These forced rounds of applause really are starting to ring very hollow in this country.
Yeah, and too often these ceremonies, and we see the same sort of ceremonies here, different ceremonies, but same principle. These ceremonies of love and support and all that are really so often hijacked or an excuse for the haters, because then they look at everyone who didn't join in and then they really go to town, because that's what they really want to do. They want to hate. They don't want to love, they want to hate. In America, just quickly, we already know that blacks there are less than half as likely as whites to get themselves vaccinated. In Britain, elderly black people are again half as likely as elderly white people to get vaccinated. I read that a government committee called SAGE is blaming racism, says the historical issues of unethical healthcare research and structural and institutional racism and discrimination are key reasons for this. Racism, Brendan?
No, I really disagree with that. And in fact, I think the opposite is the case. I think with a low uptake of the vaccine among black communities in the UK, I think what we're witnessing is we're reaping the whirlwind of woke politics. This is what happens when you continually tell groups of people, whether it's black people or Muslims or South Asian people, when you continually tell them that society is institutionally racist, that it hates them, that everyone is out to get them, that Britain is a horrible country steeped in the crimes of empire and the crimes of colonialism, which woke campaigners have been saying for the past few years. It's not surprising in those circumstances that some communities would become more suspicious of mainstream society and of the authorities themselves. So that's the real problem. Tragically, we have convinced some communities that this society doesn't care for them, which is completely untrue. And I think woke activists and the left in general really need to have a reckoning with themselves about this problem that we face.
Brendan and Neil, it's always great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.